Chat.
So, Mr. Garnett, during lunch, we see some demonstration of Skype connection with at least Singapore and Tanzania. So we were told that that's your pilot location. Tell us about what are you doing now in Singapore and Tanzania.
Yeah, so very, very different projects because very different environments, right? So Singapore, just imagine think about the most, certainly among the most connected population in the world in terms of wireless connectivity. Very urban, developed economy. And so even in a place like that, they're thinking about making wireless connectivity even more ubiquitous than it is today. So they want to have even better than what they have, and they're experiencing real challenges around the amount of available frequency for them to be able to deliver applications they want to deliver to their citizens. And so in Singapore, we've partnered with 17 other companies, mostly Singaporean companies, ranging from StarHub, who's a cable mobile operator in Singapore, to startups in Singapore. And we're doing anything from kind of machine-to-machine, smart city applications, monitoring energy consumption, for example, trying to reduce energy consumption using remote sensors. Think of scenarios around flood control, so water sensor kind of scenarios, to broadband access. So even in Singapore, we're using TV white spaces for broadband access on, for example, the Singapore Island Country Club, and then also in the harbor with ships that are offshore, and using this TV white space technology instead of relying on satellite, which they don't really need if they're close to shore and it's too expensive. And we're working with the government, with IDA, the regulator, on that project, as well as I2R, the research and development organization there in Singapore. So that's the Singapore project. Tanzania, also an urban deployment, but a developing economy, right? So it's a country where the economy is growing quickly, but they have a long way to go, and the percentage of people who are actually using the internet is quite low still. Most people don't have devices. So in that project, we're actually going to build some TV white space and Wi-Fi networks on university campuses. So there's 4 universities right in downtown Dar es Salaam, and we're partnering with a local internet service provider called Uhuru One and the Commission on Science and Technology to build a proof of concept network. And the idea there is we will sell a bundle of low-cost connectivity device and applications to university students and faculty and staff in Dar es Salaam. The third project that we have going on right now in Africa is in Kenya. Very different again. So in that project called Mawingu, which means cloud in Swahili, we're delivering broadband access in rural areas. Now in Kenya, like in Tanzania, most people live in rural areas still, and most people do not have electricity where they live, so they're off the grid. So you can't deliver broadband access to rural areas in that part of Africa without also delivering them power. So the network we're building in Kenya is all solar powered. The base stations are solar powered, so the towers that create the broadband network are solar powered, and the end user locations are solar powered. So the idea basically is we have these, what we call Mawingu agents, who will be selling bandwidth, low-cost bandwidth, and charging. So someone will come to this location with a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop, and they will get their device charged up, and they will be able to buy bandwidth from this Mawingu agent. So it's a very unique project, and it's a very different approach to delivering broadband access, and it's quite innovative. And we're excited to be involved in all 3 projects.
In Tanzania, we saw that the connection is with I believe, a very rural area. So are you trying to tell us that using this new technology will make Wi-Fi broadband accessible to poor people?
To the rural areas, yeah. Poor people in the rural areas. The idea basically is, can we deliver access? Can we deliver broadband access for people who live at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of income. So most people in rural areas in Kenya or Tanzania, they're not rich. They don't make a lot of money, and so, but they're not using the internet. And the biggest reason is because it's just not affordable to them. So can we work with partners in these countries to deliver really low-cost access, a tier of broadband access that sort of every person can afford? And so we hope that we'll be able to try that out in those markets and prove that it can be done.
And if your project or your idea of DSA become more widespread to the world, would that make Wi-Fi broadband more affordable even in a country like Thailand or a kind of middle-income countries?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is that there are people, even in Africa, there are rich people, right? So there will be a tier of access for them that can be delivered with fourth generation LTE or through fiber, and they can afford it. But there are also a lot of people in those countries who can't afford what's being delivered today, and we need to figure out a way to reduce the cost of access for them. And likewise, in a place like Thailand, I imagine that there are people who do not have a lot of money to spend on broadband access, and they use it very sparingly. So we have to figure out ways to get the people who cannot afford it as much, get them online, get them a part of the economy, get them part of society. You know, increase social inclusion, increase digital inclusion, increase economic inclusion, create opportunities for small businesses in a place like Thailand, so that the economy can grow, especially in places like rural areas or in lower income areas of even urban markets.
I believe that in the DSA will have to work with government regulators.
Yes.
Have you been facing any resistance, not understanding about what are you doing in country?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say it's necessarily resistance. I think it's a lack of understanding about what exactly is this technology, what can it do, what can it enable, and what sort of risks are involved in allowing it to happen. One of the concerns is interference to broadcast, and so there are legitimate concerns that allowing Wi-Fi-like access or unlicensed access in these unused frequencies in the TV bands will cause interference to digital television reception or even analog television reception. And so we've worked with governments around the world to basically prove that that's a concern that we can address through mitigation techniques. And part of the reason why we do these projects, these pilot projects, is actually to go into countries with local partners, with government partners, and show them that this can actually deliver some real benefit to their populations and at the same time not cause any risk to interference. So I would say less resistance than it really is sort of lack of understanding initially, and that's why we're trying to engage with them, and that's why, in part, why we help to work with other companies to create this Dynamic Spectrum Alliance, so we can engage with governments and help to educate them so that they can actually understand it better and then move forward with the regulations that allow it to happen on a wider scale.
In this conference, we heard a lot about the term Internet of Things.
Yes.
Can you put in simple terms, explain to us, what is this?
So the Internet of Things, you think about increasing reliance on, instead of broadband being provided to the person, the idea is there increasingly will be devices that work on behalf of people. So think of remote sensor networks for agriculture. So maybe you have a sensor network that monitors water supply or monitors irrigation and better directs irrigation on the field so that you can grow more rice. Or you may have a sensor network in the canals in Bangkok that monitor water quality, so that the water quality can be improved here, and we can actually start using the canals.
Or even monitor for the flood.
For floods, for dengue fever or something like that, or different kinds of diseases. So you can have early warning. So those kinds of applications, smart city applications, monitoring the lights, CCTV camera networks, those kinds of scenarios. And the idea basically is more efficiently delivering services to the citizens, improving quality of life using these sensor networks. And the idea with Internet of Things is more and more of these kinds of wireless networks will be deployed, and there'll be more and more devices that will be connected to networks. And so the big challenge is how are we going to design networks, and how are we going to design spectrum policy and spectrum management in order to enable this to all happen.
And has what you just said been operational in any places in the world? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing more and more smart city applications being deployed around the world. Anything ranging from traffic light monitoring to water quality to you name it, all kinds of applications, increasingly are happening around the world. And so we've got to keep up with this, and we've got to make sure that the policies are in place to enable this to all continue to happen.
So now we are in 2013. So what DSA is seeing in the next few years for the development of what you are doing?
Right. Well, the Dynamic Spectrum Alliance, in many ways, is really a bet on the future, right? So this is a very forward-looking organization, and we're really at the beginnings of this. And while we're talking, for example, about TV white spaces, we know that increasingly radio frequencies are going to be shared using these new technologies. And that's needed because we need to find ways to use spectrum more efficiently over time, and people generally recognize that. So as we look forward, we will engage with industry and with government in a lot of different contexts, talking about a lot of different kinds of radio frequencies and a lot of different ways of getting access to spectrum. And so really this is just the beginning. It's very, I think in a few years from now we'll look back on this and we'll laugh at how basic our understanding is and how limited the range of issues we're looking at. And this is just going to expand and grow in a big way. And we're pleased that we're starting with the 32 companies that we've partnered with on this, but we think that it's just a matter of time, and more companies are going to get involved. More and more governments will want to engage. More and more research institutions and academic institutions will want to become members of this. And from our perspective, the sky's the limit on this.
Yeah. Today, our Eye on the Biz would like to thank Mr. Garnett a lot for this very educational discussion. And I think that we will have a lot to look forward to for what DSA is being trying to develop for the benefit of the global population.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for this great event today that we were involved in here in Bangkok, and the Thai people are obviously great hosts, and we've been happy to be here.
Yeah, our food is also very great. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending your time with us. I hope you enjoy our program today. I hope to see you again next week. Bye for now.